I now call to order this meeting of the Geary Sanitary District, this meeting of the Board of Commissioners, the regular meeting for Monday, November 18th, 2019. Prior to starting this meeting, if you have a cell phone or a pager, we ask that you turn it to silent or vibrate as to not disrupt the meeting while it's in progress. And if you do receive a call or page during the meeting, we ask that you go into the hallway to take that again as to not disrupt the meeting. Going along our agenda, the first thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you stand with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on our agenda is roll call. Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Trammell Raggs.
Present.
Commissioner Maurice Mabon.
Present.
Commissioner Ola Morris.
Present.
Commissioner Charles Jackson.
Present.
Attorney Joel Harris Jr.
Present.
Executive Director Daniel Vicari.
Present.
Director of Administration Vern White.
Present.
And we also have Mayor Freeman Wilson. And that completes the roll call.
Thank you. With 4 commissioners, we do have a quorum to do business. Next on the agenda is certification. I, Trammell Raggs, certify that prior to this meeting, an executive session held, and that there was nothing that was discussed during the executive session except the items that were indicated on the executive session notice posted in compliance with Indiana Code 5-14-1.5. Also, there were no final decisions made during that executive session in compliance with the same statute. If there is any commissioner that dissents this certification, they may do so now. Hearing none, we'll move along the agenda to the minutes. What is the pleasure of the board regarding the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the executive session and regular meeting minutes for November the 4th, 2019.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Mabon.
Yes.
Commissioner Raggs.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, the minutes have been approved. Moving along our agenda, next we come to new business, and for new business, I will turn it over to the Executive Director, Mr. Daniel Vicari.
Thank you, Chairman. So general overview for new business. I'll summarize. I'd like to ask for Vern White to provide overviews for 2A, B, and C. I will provide overviews for 2D and E, and I would like to ask Attorney Harris to provide the overview for 2F.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you, Vern.
Item 2A, a motion to approve GSD's payroll earnings for period ending October 14, 2019 through October 27, 2019 in the amount of $241,114.12. I recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2A. What is the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to approve as stated, Mr. Chairman.
Second it, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Mabon.
Yes.
Commissioner Raggs.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2A has been approved.
Item 2B, a motion to approve and ratify GSD resolution number SD 19-08, authorizing closing out and transferring various GSD Trust Indiana dormant bank accounts to GSD Centier General Operating Fund 670 and GSD Equipment Replacement Fund 435. So what we're doing is we're transferring the smaller balances from Trust Indiana and consolidating them with the corresponding Centier accounts for a total amount of $34,780.87. I recommend approval as stated.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2B. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Mabon.
Yes.
Commissioner Raggs.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2B has been approved.
Item 2C, a motion to approve GSD resolution number SD 19-09, authorizing and transferring funds from GSD Equipment Replacement Fund 435 investment account to the GSD Equipment Replacement Fund 435 non-investment account. We're transferring $500,000 into the non-investment account to cover our expenses for Fund 435. This is where we make our vendor payments from. We need to make sure, due to the influx of projects that we've had the last few months or so, that we have adequate funds in our non-investment account to make those vendor payments. I recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2C. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon.
Yes.
Commissioner Rex.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2C has been approved.
Item 2D is a motion to approve and ratify an award of bid to Alex Met Sewers for an emergency sanitary sewer repair, which was alternate number 1 with a point repair at the vicinity of 1301 Garfield Street in a not-to-exceed amount of $86,100.00. We had this 42-inch sewer cause a pretty major cave-in at the vicinity of 1301 Garfield. We reached out to contractors with 2 options. One's a point repair, another is going from manhole to manhole, so roughly a distance change from just 28 feet or an entire 350 feet. We solicited quotes from our usual group of 12 contractors, and we had 3 respond, with Alex Metz Sewer ultimately being the lowest responsible bidder. Grimmer Construction, who initially gave us the lowest number, had backed out because they could not make the repair timely, and it was an emergency. The repair has been completed. They are actually backfilling the cave-in this morning after making the repair, and we recommend the board to please approve and ratify today.
You've heard the overview with recommendation with regard, to 2D for approval and ratification. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval and ratification, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon.
Yes.
Commissioner Rex.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2D has been approved and ratified.
Thank you. 2E is a motion to approve an award of bid to Area Plumbing and Sewers for the purchase and installation of an emergency bypass system for the Marshalltown Pumping Station in a not-to-exceed amount of $22,800. We have been going through, in order of priority of risk, going through our list of pump stations and providing, where we can, an emergency bypass system. What that is it enables us to take our trailer-mounted pump, drive up to a pump station if it were to experience a power failure, and be able to hook our generator-driven pump to the station. When we have this, basically it provides a series of quick connects so that we can hook up the hosing from our bypass pump system to the station and not have the risk of that station causing basement backups in the area. So we solicited quotes from, jumped ahead, I forgot how many contractors. I know it was more than 3 contractors, but there's 3 that provided a bid, and they were Area Plumbing, LGS Plumbing, and Alex Metz. And Area Plumbing is the lowest responsive bidder. We recommend award to Area Plumbing for item 2E.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regards to 2E. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon.
Yes.
Commissioner Rex.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2E has been approved.
Attorney Harris, would you like to cover item 2F?
Yes. Item 2F is a motion to approve GSD Resolution Number SD 19-10, authorizing the refunding of the GSD revenue bonds, Series 2011A. Back in 2011, the Sanitary District issued several revenue bonds. The current balance of those bonds is in excess of $20 million. The rates on those bonds fluctuate between 5.05 and 5.5% interest rates. Currently, the market is good, and we have the opportunity to refund these bonds or refinance these bonds at rates that range between 2.86 and 2.93. It's estimated that if the board were to take action to approve this resolution, the district could save in excess of $2 million. I'm recommending approval of the refunding of the 2011 Series A revenue bonds.
You've heard the overview and recommendation as it relates to 2F. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
If anything come up later on, can we still apply for this, something lower?
So the way this process works is, once the board approves this, we'll go to market, and within 30 days or so, there should be a closing that's scheduled. Rates can fluctuate between now and that time. If you're not going to experience a savings, then we won't go forward with closing it. But obviously, you have to get board approval first, go to the market, and then take advantage of what we believe those rates would be as we sit here today. So we've got until now to the closing to do that. But yes, at any time in the future, if the rates were to go down, can we refinance again? Yes, you could always do that.
Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none. Roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon.
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2F has been approved.
That's all for new business today, Commissioners.
Thank you. Going along our agenda, next we come to claims, and for claims, I'll turn it over to the Director of Administration, Ms. Vern White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 3A, GSD claims numbers 4,406 through 4,565 in the amount of $1,335,137.36. I recommend approval and ratification of today's GSD claims.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 3A. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon.
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, the claims have been approved.
That completes today's GSD claims items.
Thank you. Moving along our agenda, next we come to information updates. And our first information update will be from our plant superintendent, Ms. Rhonda Anderson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to say congratulations to Derwin Fletcher, one of our operators who passed the Class 4 Operators exam. Putting that in perspective, 6 years ago, 4 of our operators had passed the Class 4 exam, and with Derwin now we have 12 operators have passed the exam. We raised the bar, and they responded, and now 12 of our 13 operators have passed the Class 4, and the 13th one doesn't have enough years experience to sit for the Class 4, but he will take the exam as soon as he has the required number of years. So we're real happy about that. Members of the IWEA O&M committee are in the process of reviewing abstracts for the core conference that will be held in March in Greenwood. And our ongoing objective is to select presentations that not only provide operators with the required CEUs, but also affirm something that they may have already learned, teach something new, and present presentations that may have an immediate impact at a plant. So there are 3 categories at the core conference: operations and maintenance, residuals, and laboratory. So we're preparing for that. It turned out really good. Last year it was the O&M's committee first time participating in it, and it turned out really well. So we're going to do it again. GSD staff and CDM Smith had a meeting on November 8th to discuss the boiler replacement 30% design. So we've got a lot of projects that are going to be taking place next year here at the plant. the aeration improvement project, the grid system improvement project, and the boiler replacement project. Speaking of the aeration project, we just got an email this morning that they've received our acceptance of the incentive offer for the aeration project. So we are looking forward to recovering some of the funding for that project. The October NWIOA meeting was hosted by Michigan City on October 24th, and the technical presentation was by Mike Cuss, Michigan City Sanitary District Director. We had initially scheduled someone else for that meeting, but it fell through at the last minute, and Mike Cuss stepped up and gave us a presentation on partnership, the key to pollution prevention and environment sustainability. Disinfection season ended October 31st, and we had no effluent limit E. coli violations. Semi-annual sampling for whole effluent toxicity analysis started yesterday, and sampling will continue until this Friday. The samples will be analyzed to determine the ability of test species to survive and reproduce in samples of the GSD effluent. The West Belt Filter Press Conveyor in the dewatering building was repaired by GSD staff. The 6.0 auto sampler was repaired. Both drainage pumps in the East RES have been repaired and are fully operational. And a couple weeks ago, we discovered that rags, enough to fill a 6-yard container, were dumped in the sewer. And luckily, our operators were vigilant, and the trash rack and the bar screen operated as designed, and we were able to remove them without any damage to our equipment. Despite the cold weather that we've been having, our maintenance staff continues to make a lot of progress in the number 9 primary tank, and they are replacing chains and flights, and they expect to complete that by the end of the week. So that's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board for Ms. Anderson?
Just got one question. When you say rags dumped in the sewer, you're talking about like in an alley sewer, somebody?
Somewhere, we don't know where, somewhere in our collection system, and they washed up to the plant, and we had to dig them out.
I'd just like to say, give thanks to you for motivating those individuals, passing their exam. What number was that, 12?
We have 12.
12.
12 out of 13. And the 13th one, the 13th operator, he's only been an operator for about 6 months, and he's already passed the Class 3 exam, so I'm sure that he'll be successful when it's time for him to
So you tutor them into that?
I help a little bit, but most of the studying they do on their own. But I give them study material, practice exams, and if they ask, I'll help them. But the credit has to go to them because most of the studying is done on their own.
Thank you.
I'd like to join in with Commissioner Jackson in that, and please pass this along to those employees, because it's the saying, a high tide raises all boats, right? So when you have more and more employees passing that Class 4, it motivates the other employees to do the same thing. And now you can see everybody who's eligible has passed that Class 4 exam. That speaks very highly of the employees. It speaks obviously very highly of you as well. But definitely it speaks very high of the employees and their motivation and their dedication and commitment to their profession. And that is something that just deserves an absolute pat on the back.
I'll let them know.
Is there anything else from Ms. Anderson? All right, thank you. Our next information update will be in reference to construction activities, and that will come from Mr. Eric Tong.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Here to provide a quick summary of current construction projects. The first one being the Clark Road Improvements Project. Again, we're just waiting for NIPSCO to lower their gas valve so we can pour that last section of the concrete sidewalk. The Ambridge Neighborhood Sewer Lining Project. Currently, contractors out there grouting the sewer lines to prep them to get lined. During this, they discovered 3 sewer sections that cannot be grouted, and those will have to be considered point repairs. And our engineering team, American Construction Point, is evaluating the best strategies to address those problems. The Lake Street Road Construction Project, it should be wrapping up quickly. They're right now pouring the concrete curbs and sidewalks. They're going to try to get that done this week. But also, they're going to compact any other bare areas with the gravel. For the wintertime, they're also going to try to asphalt these areas if they can complete it by the November 29th. But with this warmer weather, it looks like we can all get that done. The parking lot on 6th Avenue, the old mingling site, that is scheduled to get asphalted on Wednesday. The temperature is supposed to be favorable for it to get that done. So the last thing we have to do is kind of button up the project area for the winterization, so this be usable for the public, for public use. The paving here at the treatment plant, that project is completed. We're just waiting for the documents for the certificate of final completion and release retainage. The Forest Avenue and Locust Avenue paving projects is underway. With that snap of cold weather, the paving was delayed. With this warmer weather coming up, all the sites are ready to get asphalted. So that project will be completed by the end of the year. And that's the same for the 20th Avenue stormwater improvements as well. The site's prepped, we need warm weather to do that paving. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Tonk?
The asphalt company, they hadn't closed down yet.
Not yet. Hopefully not until December.
Oh,
But it's supposed to be 55 Thursday, so.
they can.
Any other questions for Mr. Tonk?
I did visit Lake Street area, and it's improved somewhat. They just haven't opened up the avenue yet, the path to drive through.
No, they're still doing some work on the sidewalk areas, kind of limiting the traffic to get through. So once all the concrete work is done, you see all that plastic covering down, that's to
Yeah.
protect the concrete with the cold weather. So once that concrete is cured in place and we get some additional lighting up, or should be done this week as well, that project should be opening up, that roadway should be opening up very shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next information update will come from our compliance department, and that will come from Ms. Tammy Davis.
Hello, Commissioners. I think it's still morning. Just a quick update. You do have our data analysis of monitoring several of our projects for compliance, so I can entertain any questions that you have based upon that. However, just want to give you an update of activity that we participated since we last presented, as well as upcoming procurement and business outreach initiatives. So we participated in a construction trades seminar, as well as co-supported one that was done by the Indiana Plan, the Gary Human Rights Commission, and by the attorney James Dillon Law Firm. And there are probably about 50 individuals in attendance. There is only one high school that sent students, but the information was still good. One of the things that was highlighted, I think, as I had mentioned last month, were how individuals can clear their driver's licenses and get some things that's on their records expunged, because we know that one of the barriers to entry into the construction trade union apprenticeship programs are individuals that do not have driver's licenses. And one of the reasons why that is required is because oftentimes, whether you're an apprentice or a laborer, sometimes contractors need material picked up, and they just grab somebody to get in one of their trucks and run to a yard and pick up material. So that's one of the reasons why driver's licenses specifically are required. However, there is a lot of attention from a legislative standpoint, as well as with talking with the contractors and the unions individually, to not require driver's licenses because of that being a barrier. That a state of ID should be sufficient to validate one's eligibility in terms of their address, as well as their ability to work in the U.S. But that's not our fight, but it is one of the barriers that we are facing in our community. So it was good to have a legal representation as to how individuals can clear up their driving records to get over that particular hurdle. But it was very informative, and as a result, we had about 3 or 4 Gary residents that completed our Gary Residents in the Construction Trades Forum, so that we can work with the Indiana plan as well as the respective trade union apprenticeship programs that they are interested in going into. Coming up this week, we have the 3rd Annual Construction and Skilled Trades Day that is happening tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Lake County Fairgrounds. Once again, this is for high school students only. All of the high schools, and I made contact with the our Workforce Innovation Board to ensure that all of our high schools, they actually have been invited. So hopefully we'll have good attendance from our charter schools as well as our one public high school, that we will have representation at that. At this particular Skilled Trades Day, high school students will have an opportunity to perform hands-on construction tasks so they can actually get a feel, literally, for what that trade actually does. So again, that's tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. We also mentioned last month that the state of Indiana is hosting various disparity study meetings. We attended the one that was held here in Gary on Tuesday, November 12th. They had 2 sessions, one during the day and one in the evening. I attended both sessions. At the first one, we had probably about 30 people in attendance, and at the evening, we had about 15 people roughly in attendance. And there is a lot of questions about what an actual disparity study is. So for the sake of the public that will see this, I will give a very short overview. A disparity study identifies a gap through which a government entity actually has procurements or expenses, and how much of that has actually been participated by minority and women-owned businesses. So it's specifically to identify a gap if there is one that exists. And so because the state of Indiana issues numerical goals for a race and gender specific projects, they are required by law to hold disparity studies. So one cannot just arbitrarily say, we're going to have a goal of 40% MBE without it being statistically based on some type of research. Other than that, it causes confusion and in the marketplace. And it may not be achievable because it's not based upon any data. It's just a number out of the sky. So disparity study is required to set the goals. And so there are still ways for our businesses to participate. They have concluded their weekly public meetings, but there's a lot of follow-up that is going to take place. So when businesses receive a call from the state of Indiana or from BBC Research, we really need for them to respond to that call, because this will identify how many minority and women-owned businesses that actually exist in order to participate in these projects. So what several entities often do is that they utilize the goals that are set by the state to help influence the percentages that they're utilizing within their respective agencies. So this is very critically important to our communities as well as to our business community. And the state of Indiana's disparity study, it covers not only the state of Indiana's government agencies, but it includes all of the state-funded universities, Indiana University, Purdue, Vincennes, Ivy Tech, all of them are included in this particular study as well as NDOT. So this is extremely important. I just can't emphasize it enough. You know, this is my bellywick, so I just get excited that we're doing this. But it's just crucially important that we participate and that we show up to make sure that the state understands that there are businesses that exist that can do business with these various government agencies. Also happening this week are different workshops that's being presented by the U.S. Small Business Administration. On this Thursday, there is a how to do business, how the SBA actually initiates its small contracts, and that's taking place on this Thursday, the 21st, from 10 a.m. to 11:30 at Purdue's Technology Center. And then immediately following that workshop, there is another summit on 8A, an 8A Business Development and Recruitment Summit that is taking place again at Purdue on this Thursday from 1:30 to 3:30. So again, as we promote the utilization of Gary businesses, we're also identifying opportunities for their development and growth so that they can participate on all other types of contracting and procurement opportunities with other agencies. And what many businesses may not know is that Gary, Indiana is about 90% hub zone. There are specific set-asides for hub zone that we're not taking advantage of because part of that they don't know. And so hub zone, it's free. All you have to do is go on to the website www.sba.gov/hub zone, type in your address, and you could just click and tell them you want to be identified as a hub zone business to take advantage of a lot of these contracting opportunities. And lastly, one of our partners, the Army Corps, they have upcoming contracting opportunities in the region that we will be sending out via our e-blast procurement and business outreach opportunities. So there's a lot going on in the region. So we want our local businesses to stay tuned and definitely participate in all of these opportunities to grow and maintain business. So with that, I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for Ms. Davis?
I have one question. Could you repeat that hub zone website again?
Sure. They could go on to www.s.ba.gov. And if you do /hub zone, it will pop up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you don't have to be like MBE, WBE, or DBE certified, just a regular business.
Any other questions for Ms. Davis?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good holiday, too. I will see you.
Next is discussion. That's discussion amongst members of the board. Is there anything a board member wishes to discuss at this point? I'd like to take this opportunity to, much like Ms. Davis just did, wish all of the citizens or anyone out there who's not even a citizen a very happy upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. I know this is the last meeting that we have prior to the Thanksgiving holiday, and I like to take an opportunity to say something every year, just about time to sit down and reflect on the things that we have and the things that we should be grateful for. We are all very fortunate, and when I say all of us, I don't just mean us being the people up here or the folks in the audience. I mean every single person. No matter what you think you may not have, you have so much that you may not even recognize to be thankful for. Somebody, I was having a conversation with somebody, and he said to me, well, you know, there's one thing the dead all agree on, that it's better to be alive. And, you know, it was funny in the context of the conversation, but it's so absolutely true. I mean, just the smallest things that we have that we're able to do are things that we really take for granted. And it's something that we should sit down and reflect and be thankful for. Last year I talked about a friend of mine who survived a car accident with a traumatic brain injury, who was struggling with some things at the time, and I was telling him, look, you need to be thankful just to be alive. And the fact that they're, you know, today up walking and talking, and, you know, certain little differences, but for the most part, you never even know that it happened, from somebody who was a couple hours away from not making it any longer. And it doesn't have to be just that extreme. Just, we all have so much to be thankful for. And I don't want to go on and belabor the point, but with this upcoming holiday, I'd like to make sure that, yes, while everybody wants to go out and get that nice huge TV for $5 or whatever the sales may be, that we don't take our eye off the ball, and that it's the fact that we should take the moment to sit down and reflect, and just reflect on everything that we have and everything that we have to be thankful for. Thank you. So, moving along our agenda, next we come to request to speak. Ms. Lee, are there any requests to speak?
No, sir.
All right, with no request to speak, the next thing on our agenda is adjournment. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Second, Mr. Chair.
We are adjourned.
Almost second Reverend Chair.
This regular meeting of the Board of Directors for Monday, November 18th, 2019. The first thing on our agenda is roll call. Ms. Lee.
Director Tremel Rags.
Present.
Director Maurice Mabon.
Present.
Director Ola Morris.
Present.
Director Charles Jackson.
Present.
Attorney Jewel Harris Jr.
Present.
Executive Director Daniel Vicari.
Present.
Director of Administration Vern White.
Present.
And that's the end of roll call.
Thank you. With 4 directors, we do have a quorum to do business. Next on the agenda is certification. I, Tremel Rags, certify that prior to this meeting, an executive session was held, and there was nothing that was discussed during that executive session except the items that were indicated on the executive session notice posted in compliance with Indiana Code 5-14-1.5. Also, there were no final decisions made during that executive session in compliance with the same statute. If there is any commissioner that dissents this certification, they may do so now. Hearing none, we'll move along to the minutes. What is the pleasure of the board regarding the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we approve the executive session and regular meeting minutes for November the 4th, 2019.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson.
Yes.
Director Morris.
Yes.
Director Mabon.
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, the minutes have been approved. Moving along our agenda, next we come to new business, and for new business, I'll turn it over to the Executive Director, Mr. Daniel Vicari.
Thank you, Chairman. For item 2A, I would like for Vern White to present payroll to you.
Thank you, Director. Item 2A, a motion to approve GSWMD's payroll earnings for period ending October 14, 2019 through October 27, 2019, in the amount of $12,318.85. I recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2A. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved. Approve as stated, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson.
Yes.
Director Morris.
Yes.
Director Mabon.
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2A has been approved.
Item 2B is a motion to approve the certificate of final completion submittal of Reith Riley Construction Company, Inc. for the 4th Avenue and Bigger Street resurfacing and drainage improvement project, and that was GSWND project number SW18-02. Staff and our consulting team have inspected the work completed by Reith Riley at 404th and Bigger and are satisfied with the work. We are asking the board to approve the certificate of final completion today.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2B. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2B has been approved.
Item 2C is a motion to approve the certificate of final completion submittal of Walsh and Kelly, Inc. for the Jerry Street Resurfacing and Drainage Improvements Project, and that was GSWMD project number SW17-02. Again, staff and our consulting firm, American Structure Point, have reviewed the work, and we are satisfied that the punch list has been completed. We recommend approval of item 2C.
You heard the overview and recommendation with regards to 2C. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon.
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2C has been approved. And that will complete new
Sorry.
business.
It's a completion of new business, sorry.
Next on our agenda is claims, and for claims, I'll turn it over to the Director of Administration, Ms. Vern White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 3A, GSWD claims numbers 485 through 500 in the amount of $115,860.16. I recommend approval and ratification of today's stormwater claims.
You heard the overview and recommendation with regard to approval and ratification of 3A. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move, Mr. Chair, for approval and ratification.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, the claims have been approved and ratified.
That completes today's stormwater claim items.
Thank you. Moving along our agenda, next we come to information updates, and our first information update will be from our MS4 coordinator, Ms. Brenda Scott Henry.
Good morning, board and staff. I only have a few things that I want to share with you. Not sure if you received your MS4 package, did you?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we held our meeting last week on the 12th, and what you have before you are the reports from each person responsible for submitting reports. Additionally, I wanted to add that IDEM hosted a plan review training on October 17th, where we had 3 staff members who are responsible for reviewing plans attended that workshop. On December 9th, we'll have our last MS4 team meeting for the year. We'll review our calendar for next year during that time. And then on Tuesday, February 18th, 2020, isn't that wonderful? 2020, we're here. The NICEWAG team will host the contractors and developers training, and these are local contractors or regional contractors and developers who are doing construction work throughout the region, and we host this annual contractors and developer training so that they will know what to encounter in terms of stormwater management as they're doing their projects on site, during construction, and as well as post-construction. We're getting the word out early this year, so that training will be held in February 2020. That's all I have for you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to respond.
Any questions for Ms. Scott Henry? Thank you.
Thank you, and happy holidays.
Thank you. Our next information update will be from American Structure Point, and that will come from Mr. John Tucker.
Good morning, directors. A few construction updates for you. Our Ambridge lining project is they're currently lining. 2 to 3 weeks time frame for them. Of course, the weather is dependent on some of the work, but I know the next progress meeting they will discuss if there's any concerns regarding that, but they have started the work. Lake Street, as you all know, is still ongoing. They are currently continuing to work on sidewalks and driveways along the corridor. They plan on this next week of having to do some of the tent pavement markings along Lake Street so that the parking bays and everything is lined out, so it's a little more clearer. So once they do open up the traffic, lights are scheduled for later this week, waiting for NIPSCO to energize the actual service point. And then for the parking lot improvements that we have there at 6th Street, the old Mingling Park lot, the paving is scheduled for Wednesday, which we do have some good weather that day, so hopefully we'll keep things moving forward. All the curb and raised planter boxes are complete within the parking area, and they're also currently working on the plaza area is under construction. So I'll get a better update as to the other landscaping restoration efforts along the corridor for the next one. I didn't have a chance to talk to my supervisor out there just to kind of see how that's coming along. But main emphasis is to get the concrete work done in hopes of giving as much open before Thanksgiving. I do know they are making every effort to maintain one lane of flow as much as they can, whether it be in the evenings, on the weekends, and working with, depending on what construction is happening, to make sure everything's safe as well. So that is what I have for those couple projects. I'd be happy to answer if there's any questions.
Are there any questions from any board member? Mr. Tucker?
You know, the paving of Lake Street, will that be open for public anytime this week or next week?
They're shooting to have it open before Thanksgiving, to have it completely open with the pavement markings this week. That helps us out, so that is the goal.
I know you was talking about pavement markings, but have we...
Oh, so for the roadway itself, all the paving that will happen this year is complete. The final surface course will not happen till the spring. So yeah, the only really paving we have left is to get the parking lot paved. Now, we have the porous asphalt in that parking lot. Of course, how the weather's been happening, that's been put on hold. So that's the main next step of asphalt to get done this year. Other than that, the rest is the concrete work.
So the opening of will the third fair be open anytime this week for traffic?
This week, I would probably say no, it'll still be restricted on a limited basis with the goal of having it open before the Thanksgiving weekend holiday.
And temporary striping?
Yes, yes. That way, at least everything's kind of marked and delineated for the winter time, as well as people actually know where to park and kind of, utilize the space that they have for parking, and it's somewhat organized, I guess.
It says the paving, the asphalt company will not be shut down no time soon. So couldn't they do the final paving of it?
Well, even with them not shutting down, most of the work that on projects that are happening surface is still weather dependent, temperature dependent more so. So we can ask to see if that's still a possibility, but the big goal has been to get the final course, you want to get all the concrete work done also, so that you don't damage the final course, and that'll kind of push us out of that window. But with December really being only 2 weeks away, our window really of getting it surfaces.
So you haven't finished the concrete work?
No, correct, sir. That's what they're continuing to work on right now through the businesses, all the rest of the concrete work, from all the way from 3rd all the way to Miller. So they're still filling in the gaps. And then getting it ready for the winter as well. There's a lot of areas they got to kind of just connect.
Okay. Well, I usually make a tour through there at least once every 3 weeks or 2 weeks. It was kind of congested.
Yeah, as soon as we can get some flow of traffic through there, it'll definitely help that congestion. It's just during the day when there is work going on, it does have to be restricted or even closed. Like I said, I know they have been making the effort of trying to open it up for the weekends, of maintaining a northbound flow through there. So, but yes, it's still a couple more weeks.
I know the business areas will appreciate that somewhat.
Yes. And we still continue to have our every other week meetings with the businesses. So trying to keep them informed. They get a weekly direct email to them as to what's going to happen, where it's going to happen, and we have guys on site answering their questions on a daily, hourly, anytime there's a question, we try to make sure we're responsive to that.
That's all I have.
Okay. Anything else from Mr. Tucker? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next information update will come from Robinson Engineering, and that will come from Mr. Ron Smith.
Good morning, Directors. Ron Smith with Robinson Engineering. Just a couple updates on some of the projects that we are currently working on. Eric Tunk gave an update of the projects that are currently in construction, the Clark Road, the Locust, Forest Avenue, and also the 20th Place. Again, we hope to have those projects finalized before the end of this year. For the most part, what we're waiting on is for the asphalt to be placed on those projects. The Warren Street Sewer Feasibility Study, the technical memo, and also the cost estimate and a preliminary design has been completed. We have a meeting scheduled for this Friday at 9 a.m. with Executive Director Dan Bakari to go over that technical memo and also our findings. Last project we have is the Sixth Place Design Project from Lake Street to Howard. That project, the design is 50% completed. We'll be scheduling a meeting to discuss that project with Executive Director Dan Bakari and staff before we move any further with the design on that project. That's all I have for this morning, and I will entertain any questions that the directors may have at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Smith? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, and everyone have a blessed day of giving thanks next week.
You too.
All right, next on our agenda is discussion. That's discussion amongst any member of the board. Is there any topic the board member wishes to discuss at this time? All right, hearing none, we'll move along to request to speak. Ms. Lee, are there any requests to speak?
No, sir.
With no request to speak, the next thing on our agenda is adjournment. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
We are adjourned.